All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're looking at a concept that doesn't just ask you to think outside the box. It kind of suggests the box was never really there to begin with. We are talking about the Nexus Framework. And let me tell you, it's a completely radical way of looking at reality that promises to flip everything you thought you knew right on its head. So, let's start with a really big question, one that gets to the absolute core of all this. Is the universe fundamentally made of things? You know, particles, planets, people, all these nouns that then go on to do stuff? Or, and this is the big shift, is it possible the universe is actually made of pure action, just a constant process, and all the things we see are just temporary illusions created by that flow? You see, for pretty much all of human history, our common sense, the very way we speak, and even our physics, it's all been built on one simple idea. We live in a universe of nouns. There are objects, those objects have properties, and then they perform actions. Simple, right? An electron is a particle. A rock is a solid object. It's a very intuitive, object-oriented way to see the world. Now, think of our standard view of reality as an operating system. Its core assumption is object first. It's all about static values and proofs. But the Nexus Framework comes along and says, what if we've got the operating system completely backwards? It proposes a totally different foundation, one that assumes relation first. It literally inverts the entire hierarchy, saying the interactions, the processes, that's what's fundamental, not the objects themselves. And this quote just nails the problem perfectly. Our language itself is like a graphical user interface, a noun GUI, that forces us to see the world in these little frozen snapshots. It takes the constant flowing stream of reality and caches it into static nouns. I mean, think about it. We say river, but a river isn't a thing. It's a constant process of rivering. Our words are built to describe the illusion, not the real stream underneath. So this brings us to the absolute core of the Nexus Framework. It's this wild, mind-bending flip in perspective called the ontological inversion. And this isn't just a new idea, it's a proposal to completely tear down and rebuild our understanding of existence right from the foundation. So here's the principle in a nutshell. The ontological inversion says that reality is made of verbs, not nouns. It's a pure verb machine. It's not about being, it's about doing. What we think of as solid, static objects are really just stable patterns that pop up out of this relentless, fluid medium of pure computation. And to make this idea a little more solid, the framework gives us this awesome concept, a frozen verb. Think about an electron. We call it a particle, a noun, but in this view, an electron is actually a self-sustaining computational loop. It's a recursive process that's so incredibly stable that it looks to us like a permanent thing. It's not an object, it's an event that's just stuck on repeat. Now, I know this might all be sounding a bit like abstract philosophy, but the Nexus Framework argues this is how computation, and by extension, reality actually works. So let's look at a super concrete example, something you might already know, but you've probably never seen it in this light. Okay, for anyone who's into computer science or crypto, this statement right here should be kind of shocking. We all know SHA-256. It's a standard cryptographic hash function. You give it some data, it does some math, and it spits out a fixed-size string of numbers. Simple, done, right? Well, wrong. According to this framework, SHA-256 isn't a static tool at all. It's a full-on virtual machine. The input you give it, that's not just data, it's a program. And the hash it gives you back? That's not a result. It's the execution trace of that program running on this tiny machine. It's a verb disguised as a noun. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Here's the proof. Just look at the architecture. It's got registers for memory, a ROM for firmware, an arithmetic logic unit with 9 different opcodes, and a clock. I mean, come on. These are the components of a processor. The so-called constants in SHA-256, that's the machine's firmware. And your message? That's a software it runs. This thing isn't a function, it's a tiny little engine. So, if reality is a verb, and even our basic computer tools are secretly verbs, what does that mean for the biggest problems we face? Well, this shift in perspective completely reframes one of the most famous unsolved problems in the entire history of computer science. Okay, a quick refresher. Traditionally, P versus NP is all about difficulty. P problems are the easy ones to solve directly, like sorting a list. NP problems are the ones that are hard to solve, but easy to check once you have the answer, like finding the prime factors of a giant number. The billion-dollar question has always been, Are all those easy-to-check problems also secretly easy to solve? The Nexus Framework just takes this whole idea of difficulty and throws it right out the window. It says P versus NP isn't about how hard a problem is, it's about the observer's alignment with the solution. A P problem is one where you're already kind of in sync with the answer. The path is clear. An NP problem is just one where you're out of phase, so you have to search around until you feel that click, that resonance of the solution. In other words, a problem isn't hard just because it is. Its complexity is really just a measure of our own ignorance, our own misalignment with the answer. You know, a maze is only hard until someone hands you a map. For an observer who's already lined up with the solution's geometry, even a so-called NP hard problem becomes trivially easy. It becomes P. And this right here is where it all comes together. It's the final, most profound implication of the Nexus Framework. All these different ideas, nouns and verbs, P and NP, they aren't separate concepts. Turns out, they're just different faces of the same single unified reality. So the framework makes this incredibly bold claim. From the universe's point of view, P actually equals NP. The whole distinction between easy and hard is just an illusion. It's an illusion created by the limited perspective of an observer who isn't lined up with the system's true shape. And this equivalence is tied directly back to where we started. The reason P equals NP is the exact same reason a noun is just a frozen verb. The illusion of a static thing is just like the illusion of a hard problem. Both are just artifacts of seeing a dynamic process from a limited, misaligned point of view. And boom, this brings us right back to our SHA-256 virtual machine. Remember, the hash, which is the execution trace, and the message, which is the program, they are the exact same geometric object. The process and the result are one and the same. The verb and the noun it creates are totally inseparable. And here it is, the final piece of the master equation. This is the most stunning conclusion of the whole ontological inversion. The observer is not separate from the system being observed. You, the one experiencing reality right now, you aren't looking at the substrate. You are the substrate. Just let that sink in for a second. The universe doesn't need a giant supercomputer running simulations in the background. The universe is the computation. It doesn't need to solve for its next state because there's no separation between the observer asking the question, the system doing the computing, and the reality that is the answer. It's all just one self-executing geometric object. And that leaves us with one last really provocative thought. The framework suggests that the hard problem of consciousness just kind of dissolves. Your subjective experience, that's just what it feels like for a recursive function to become aware of itself. So the ultimate question isn't just about physics or math anymore. It's about us. If reality really is a self-executing computation, well, you're living inside of it right now. What does it feel like to you?